there's a misconception in our industry where putting a beer across a bar seems really easy, but the logistics to do it are very complex. And there's almost like we hide how difficult this industry is. People don't see it from the outside very well. And then they get in and they don't have the knowledge, and that leads to that failure rate you're talking about.
I think at a time we had to almost romanticize it in a way to get people interested because people were looking at other opportunities that were out there when the bars were a little bit lower. But today you can go start a restaurant tomorrow with a little bit of cash and go for it. But I run into too many times with restaurants I work with is they just don't have that business side of knowledge of what they need to do. And then when you give it to them or, you provide those resources, the surprising part is 95% of them do not execute them. And that's what drives me crazy. You give them the keys and meet them another few months later, they never apply.
It's because you're changing it after their habits are already established. So that's where the ongoing education needs to happen. We're in the
Yes,
training
it does.
business, right? Under SafeCheck. And yeah, the one-time education that on the food safety side that meets the regulations, but it's not necessarily effective because it's not ongoing. So the ongoing part is the part that's missing in that chain. And I think the people that end up being successful are the ones that apply those lessons throughout.
It's just how much more can we throw at them and tell them that you don't know how to do your bloody food cost or you don't know how to do all your costs. I'm so tired of those messages.
The success is when one does and comes back and says, "Hey, thanks for introducing me to X." Right?
Mhm.
Those are kind of the feel good stories for us because it changed how they do things and made their business profitable, or they stopped losing money like they were, or they
Yeah.
identified at least what they were losing.
Absolutely, but I'm right with you where that's one of the most frustrating things about whether it's just the podcasting and kind of education side of it or the consulting side of it. When people don't follow through and they don't get the results and then they go, "Well, this didn't work," always is kind of disappointing. But along those lines, as you were saying that, one of the things that occurred to me is if you think about any other industry, if you're an attorney, you have to go to so many classes every year. If you're a doctor, you have to go to so many classes. An accountant, insurance, banking, like every other industry in the world, there's some requirement that you actually learn. And we are one of the few industries where you don't know what you're doing? Cool, buy a bar. You don't want to learn what you're doing? Cool, keep owning your business, right? And I'm not saying that there should be regulations or something there, Dom. I'm with you that government is generally not the answer to things. But at the same time, that also means we don't even have the resources half the time to be
Well,
able to do.
but do you don't yeah, like you're talking financial resources because you're not being successful. Yeah, you're in this downward spiral. The successful restaurants, the successful bars, they go and educate themselves. They go find those resources for themselves. You see them at the trade shows. You see them wanting to learn. You see them attending the seminars. You at least see the attempt to keep moving forward, right?
Mhm.
I think back to what we were saying earlier, the ones that are just doing the same thing over and over again and not seeing any success and then wondering why, we know why. It's because they're doing the same thing over and over again. So, the the self-education or the drive for self-education is what needs to happen. We talk about that a lot on our show is that, what a lot of times we don't know. We didn't know that X thing was out there. What I do know is that the access to information's easier than ever
Mhm.
in a big way, right? And the access to tech is bigger than ever and more affordable than ever on a lot of things, right? So some of that low hanging fruit that can be changed and should be changed, restaurants and bars, they should be doing that right now because those are some of the things can easily be changed. Now there's a lot harder ones. People, the population have money in their pockets to spend at your business. Is a bigger challenge, but that's where we got to get on government and like say, hey, get off people's backs, right, so that they can afford to go out and do things. Because
Mhm.
when they afford to do things, that a bar business or a hospitality business is one of the best ways to move money in your economy because it employs a lot of people.
Mhm.
They have a lot of different suppliers that service them. So it makes a whole community work in a much better way when you have a thriving bar and restaurant businesses in your community. It's just you see it, you feel it. You go to those cities where that's a big thing, and you immediately feel it.